we have a very special guest, Alan Jordan. And Alan has worked at some of the biggest names in design. He is currently the product design manager at Pinterest. Before Pinterest, he was designing at Open Door, Google, Facebook, and Apple. I feel like there should be some sort of award given to him for having worked at all these big names. Hi, Alan. I'm
Hi.
so excited to have you, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me to chat today. I'm excited to give an overview of Pinterest growth design. First, I'm going to talk about the team structure and who the team is, and then get into how growth design leads at Pinterest as well. We get asked this question a lot. How are our teams organized? We're organized very closely to a typical growth funnel. We have our logged out experience team, which is one of our acquisition channels. We have activation, which works on our onboarding flow and new user experiences in the product. We have social growth, which is a part of acquisition, referring people to our product and keeping them engaged on our social product surfaces. A really key part of our retention efforts is notifications, which brings people back into our product and keeps them engaged. So, what's really important though is to understand how these teams play into our flywheel. And so, flywheels are so important to understand if you work on growth, just because these are driven by users' actions. And the user's actions then lead to business growth. So you're viewing business success through user success and understanding how each part of that link is connected. It's so important to understand this because you don't want to do anything that disrupts one of these links, because then you could lose one of these loops, which is really important to have sustainable business growth. So at Pinterest, we have our acquisition teams, which are like landing pages. People come in through SEO when they do a Google search. We get them signed up and onboarded and then connect them to engaging content as quickly as possible. As they engage, their recommendations get better, they get more inspired, and then we see them retaining, and the notifications bring them back into the platform. This is a little bit about our growth teams and how our flywheel works.
Yeah, this is really fascinating. So loops are always good, like it's better than linear, right? So I wonder, how are these teams working together to make sure that what you're building separately are a cohesive user experience?
That is a really good question. One of our values at Pinterest is to act as one, and that's what our growth team does. We have our own pods, respective teams, and efforts, but we ideate together across multiple teams. And so if there is good learnings on like our acquisition team, they'll flag it for activation and also for our retention teams. For example, we've done a lot of work around value prop and communicating our value prop through copy. We run a lot of those experiments on our landing page surfaces. What is Pinterest and why use it? That team shares their learnings with the activation team. Maybe we could use the same copy on our onboarding flows or in the education that we use for educating on our core features. There's a lot of cross team pollination where we act as one. And also, our growth design team works closely together. We are a small but mighty team at Pinterest comprised of amazing product designers, content designers, and researchers. This team is the one that really powers all of those components that we just talked about in the flywheel. So, getting into how growth design works at Pinterest, it's important to understand our mission. What is your company's mission? At Pinterest, ours is to bring everyone the inspiration to create a life that they love. This is so important because this is what growth builds on top of. This is what we amplify. This is what we augment with all of our product work. All the work we do ends up contributing to getting folks to our core value prop as quickly as possible or expanding it. And so this is at the core of what a growth team does. I've been in this position so many times where we're either kicking off road mapping for the year or we're kicking off a new project centered around a really lofty business goal. And in the kickoff meeting, everyone has question marks. You don't really know how to go about this or what approach to take. And what I think growth design superpower is to help the team navigate ambiguity as quickly as possible. We do that by having a series of exercises, either synthesizing previous experiments, qualitative or quantitative data, where we land on actionable learnings and actionable takeaways. And then what that leads to is for the team to ideate around and create very well formed hypotheses, which then comprise the entire team's roadmap. So design will help generate these actionable learnings and how we'll tackle a really lofty business goal, and then ideate with their PMs and their engineers to create well-formed hypotheses around that.
Love it. That is a really good summary of the design team's role in growth.
One thing that we've talked about externally a lot, and I helped write an article around with Molly, who's part of the growthdesigners.co community, is how to set a growth vision. And that's really at the core of what growth designers do at Pinterest. We help set a future vision either 6 month out, 1 to 2 year out, and then we break that out into hypotheses and we start experimenting and testing and validating or invalidating those hypotheses. And then how those perform, we then arrive at a place of where we want to iterate or shut them down. And we focus more on one of those hypotheses. And so we have a vision or a big bet. We break that out into hypotheses. We figure out which way to go and where to invest more. And then based on that, then we like figure out where we want to focus more and do follow-ups. We then arrive at a decision, and that normally makes it into our foundational part of our roadmap. I set a vision, I work with engineers to break that out into separate hypotheses and separate tactical experiments, which are mutually exclusive, collectively exhausted. And then I love going into our dashboard and seeing how they're performing and start to synthesize for myself what I think it means. Are we seeing more people saving, more people looking at more ideas on Pinterest? And then I come back to the team. I'm like, hey, I think this experiment is performing well. I think we need to do these follow ups to either polish the UI or the experience to make it higher impact. I drive the roadmap with the engineers and the team when we're road mapping. We have these three buckets: foundational work, investments, and big bets. Foundational work, you're doing small optimization that leads to kind of small wins. Investments, something where you need to iterate on a little bit or flesh it out across all platforms. And then it becomes a foundational item. And then the last one is so important for growth teams, and it's to take on big bets. The reason for this is that your experiences, your surfaces, your flows will become hyper optimized over years of experimentation where there's just no more juice to squeeze. So you need big bets where it's high effort but high reward. You unlock a whole new growth channel, a whole new part of your flywheel that didn't exist yet. It's so important to get the teams excited about big bets. And then setting a vision is normally closely tied to getting the team rallied behind a big bet as well. And then how that kind of looks on a very tactical team roadmap. If you look something like this, we're like on our activation team, we're always educating and scaffolding the user's education depending on their actions. We're refining the UI, doing things like post-action celebration. So after they save, creating their first board, celebrating it. We have things like we're investing more in. So one thing that we found is like having sound and haptic feedback when they do a core action. Folks love it. So we're fleshing that out across platforms now. And then taking on big bets. So one thing we've been talking about a lot is dynamic onboarding. Should it be a one size fits all? Can we make it dynamic depending on their intent or what channel they come in on? So this is an example of what a roadmap could look like, especially for one of our respective teams on growth.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing these. These are really insightful. I think a lot of teams, I speak from my personal experience as well. A lot of growth teams like focusing on mostly foundations and investment. It's nice that you have this three buckets approach and you have these type of visualizations. So you know, oh, I'm missing things in the big bets bucket.
Exactly. And that's a good segue for what we do when we're road mapping, especially very tactical road maps, either for a half or a quarter. We do an exercise called Design Ahead, where we try to visualize the roadmap and then also bucket things within those three buckets based on creating a visual with scrappy designs that map to each thing that we want to build or explore. We then map that to bucketing things as well. Based on creating a visualization, we can see, hey, are we only doing stuff in foundation? Like, can we take on a big bet? Most of the time we can. I found it vital to create a visual counterpart to a document roadmap because people are visual, and then you can get an understanding of the roadmap and also evangelize it and share it more easily as well. Getting into actual examples from visions we created at Pinterest, this one was really important to user education. We never really had any rich education within our product One thing that we did is we reimagined how we educated on our platform and try to make it interactive and try to make it visual. Before we just had a pulsar on certain actions. After they took that action, it was like, oh, I see why there was this UI on it, but there wasn't anything explaining why taking that action. So we explored this more illustrative visual way to educate. We were able to also get the engineers rally behind shipping bodies so that we could do these more visual illustrations as well. The next one was rethinking our entire onboarding flow and making it more contextual and more action based. Having actions like save and follow, which we didn't have on our logged out product, created a whole new, and that was action based and high intent. And so we saw the folks that came in activate at a higher rate because we were able to educate them on core actions from their initial landing page experience. It also created a whole new affordance for them to sign up on. And then we're able to do more contextual, like sign up mobiles where like this one, the user was trying to follow this creator. And so we centered their entire onboarding flow around that. The last one was creating a year in review for our social growth team. And so this was really centered around trying to pair Pinterest predicts, which is always shared externally based on data, like what trends we're seeing on the platform. We predict for that particular user what trends they would be into. Those were some examples from visions that we set. If you want to learn more and go really deep on the process that we do at Pinterest around this, we wrote a very comprehensive newsletter that has many more examples in it at growthdesigners.co. Yeah, please check it out.
Thank you so much, Alan, for sharing. I love the examples. If any of the viewers have more questions, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn. So excited to chat with any of you about the open roles that we have, or if you just want to talk about growth design. You can also find me, and a lot of folks like Slack me in the Slack community for growthdesigners.co. And so that's where I met you, and I've met so many other amazing growth designers. Feel free to connect with me there as well.
If you enjoyed this episode, I think you might like my conversation with Kyle Lambert from Webflow. In that episode, we talked about his journey getting promoted to staff designer and his creative side projects. I'll see you in that episode.